Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. The Toronto Blue Jays just made two absolutely fascinating signings that nobody saw coming, and what's wild about these moves is that they could either be complete throwaway spring training filler or they could turn into the kind of reclamation project success stories that define an entire season. In the wake of the Anthony Santander injury catastrophe that's going to keep him out for 5 to 6 months, Ross Atkins and the Blue Jays front office are scrambling to find offensive firepower anywhere they can get it. And they just reached into the bargain bin of baseball free agency and pulled out two names that should make you either extremely excited or extremely confused depending on how much faith you have in the Blue Jays player development system. We're talking about Juan Yepz and Eloy Jimenez, two right-handed power hitters who haven't played in the major leagues in over a year but have legitimate track records of success when healthy. Are these brilliant low-risk, high-reward moves, or are these just charity signings to fill out the spring training roster? Let's dive deep into what the Blue Jays are really doing here. First, let's talk about Juan Yepz, because this is a name that probably doesn't ring any bells unless you're a hardcore National League fan or you spend way too much time scrolling through baseballreference.com at 2 in the morning. Yepz hasn't played in the major leagues in a year. He spent all of 2025 grinding away in the minors with the Washington Nationals organization. But here's what you need to know about what he did when he actually got big league at-bats. Over his career, spanning 539 at-bats, which is basically a full season's worth of plate appearances, he hit .258 with 20 home runs. That's not spectacular, but it's also not terrible for a guy who's being brought in on what's probably a minor league deal with minimal financial commitment. The most intriguing part of Yepz's resume is what he did 2 years ago, which was the last time he saw significant major league action. In 226 at-bats, he hit .283. That's a legitimately solid batting average. And the fact that he couldn't get a major league contract for 2025 despite those numbers is honestly kind of surprising. Now, obviously there are reasons teams passed on him. Maybe his defense is questionable. Maybe there are makeup concerns. Maybe he just got lost in the shuffle of organizational depth charts. But the Blue Jays are betting that whatever kept him out of the majors last year can be fixed or overlooked if he can provide some offensive punch. So what's the actual plan with Yepz? Well, it's pretty straightforward. The Blue Jays need at-bats this spring training. With Santander out for months, they can't just ask the 4 or 5 guys competing for outfield spots to play every single day and carry the entire load. Players need rest days. They need time to work on specific aspects of their game without the pressure of playing in a competitive game every afternoon. Bringing in Yepz gives them another body, another bat, another option to spread the workload around during spring training. He's going to get his at-bats, he's going to get his chance to impress, and if he shows something special, maybe he earns a spot on the 40-man roster. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is the signing that has the potential to be either a massive home run or a complete waste of time. Eloy Jimenez. Now, if you know anything about baseball over the last 5 years, you know exactly who Eloy Jimenez is. This is a former Silver Slugger winner. This is a former Rookie of the Year candidate with the Chicago White Sox. This is a guy who hit 30 home runs in a season. This is a player who hit close to 20 home runs in 2/3 of a season multiple times during his prime with the White Sox. We're talking about legitimate, proven, major league power here. So why is Eloy Jimenez available on a spring training invite with no guaranteed contract? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The guy didn't play at all in 2025. 0 major league games. And when a player with his track record completely disappears from the big leagues for an entire season, there are usually some pretty significant red flags involved. Maybe it's injury concerns. Maybe it's defensive limitations. Maybe teams just don't believe he has anything left in the tank. Whatever the reason, the Blue Jays are taking a flyer on him, bringing him into camp, and seeing if their player development system can unlock whatever made him a dangerous hitter during his peak years. And here's what makes this gamble so fascinating. The Blue Jays have an absolutely stellar track record with reclamation projects. They've shown time and time again that they can take players who've struggled elsewhere, work with them, make adjustments, and turn them into productive contributors. We've seen it happen multiple times over the last few years. So if there's any organization that can get something out of Eloy Jimenez at this stage of his career, it's probably Toronto. But let's be realistic about what's working against him. Jimenez doesn't have a contract. He's on a spring training invite, which means the Blue Jays have zero financial commitment to him. If he doesn't show them something impressive during camp, it's incredibly easy for them to say thanks but no thanks, you're not worth a roster spot over David Schneider, Nathan Lukes, or Miles Straw. It's an uphill battle for Jimenez. He might have to accept a minor league assignment, wait for another injury to open up an opportunity, and then get called up later in the season. But the potential is there, and that's what makes this so intriguing. Think about what a healthy, productive Eloy Jimenez could bring to this lineup. We're talking about a middle-of-the-order bat who can hit 25 to 30 home runs if everything clicks. We're talking about a right-handed power threat who could provide protection for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and fill some of that offensive void created by Santander's absence. That's a massive upgrade over what the Blue Jays currently have for left field options. The question is whether Jimenez can actually stay healthy and rediscover the form that made him one of the most feared hitters in the American League just a few years ago. Now let's talk about the left field battle that's shaping up, because this is going to be one of the most compelling storylines to watch during spring training. Right now, you've got David Schneider, Nathan Lukes, Miles Straw, Joey Loperfido, and Jonathan Davis all competing for playing time. These are the 5 guys who already have contracts and are on the 40-man roster. Santander being placed on the 60-day injured list opens up a roster spot, but that spot is probably going to Uriel Rodriguez, the $6.5 to $7.5 million reliever who was released and nobody claimed in the offseason. He still has 4 more years left on his contract, so the Blue Jays are likely bringing him back rather than eating all that money. But here's what's really telling about the Yepz and Jimenez signings. The Blue Jays clearly don't believe in the power potential of Schneider, Straw, or Loperfido. They're looking for thump. They're looking for guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark and drive in runs. And that's exactly what Yepz and Jimenez theoretically provide. If either of these guys can show even a projection of hitting 20 to 30 home runs, they immediately become more valuable than the current left field options. There's also been buzz about R.J. Schreck, the minor league position player of the year who absolutely tore through the system last season. But here's the reality with Schreck. The Blue Jays would much rather leave him in the minors for another year of development. He's not projected to make the majors until next season anyway, and why would you start his option clock early when you've got players who are further along in their development competing for those same spots? It doesn't make organizational sense unless Schreck absolutely forces their hand with an incredible spring training performance. So what the Blue Jays are really doing here is hedging their bets. They're bringing in multiple lottery tickets and seeing which ones hit. Yepz and Jimenez are low-cost, low-risk additions who could potentially provide high reward if everything breaks right. And even if neither of them makes the team out of spring training, they've served a purpose by providing at-bats, competition, and depth during camp. That's valuable in its own right. But let's dream big for a second. Let's imagine a scenario where Eloy Jimenez comes into camp, looks healthy, starts crushing baseballs during batting practice, and carries that over into spring training games. Let's imagine he's hitting 300 with 5 home runs by mid-March and the Blue Jays have no choice but to give him a roster spot. Suddenly, you've got a legitimate middle-of-the-order threat who costs you basically nothing and fills the exact hole that Santander's injury created. That's the kind of move that can define a season and make a general manager look like an absolute genius. Or, and this is equally possible, both guys struggle, look overmatched, and get released before opening day while the Blue Jays default back to their original plan of platooning Schneider, Lukes, and Loperfido in left field. That's baseball. That's why they play the games. That's why spring training exists in the first place. What's clear is that the Blue Jays are being aggressive and creative in trying to solve their outfield problem. They're not just sitting back and hoping internal options magically develop into power hitters overnight. They're scouring the free agent market, identifying players with upside, and giving them opportunities to prove they belong. That's exactly what you want to see from a front office that's trying to compete for a playoff spot in the loaded American League East. The other interesting element here is what this says about the Blue Jays' evaluation of their current roster. By bringing in two right-handed power bats, they're essentially admitting that they don't have enough offensive firepower internally. They're acknowledging that losing Santander for 5 to 6 months is a massive problem that needs to be addressed. And they're willing to take chances on players who other organizations have given up on because they believe their coaching staff and player development system can extract value where others couldn't. This is the Blue Jays way under Ross Atkins. Find undervalued players. Work with them. Develop them. Turn them into contributors. It's worked before with guys like Kevin Kiermaier and others who came to Toronto on minimal deals and provided solid production. Can they do it again with Yepz or Jimenez? We're about to find out. Spring training is going to be absolutely fascinating to watch this year. You've got the Santander injury forcing the Blue Jays to get creative. You've got Shane Bieber dealing with forearm issues and his timeline being uncertain. You've got Jose Berrios trying to prove he's moved past the clubhouse drama from last season. You've got young players like RJ Schreck and Trey Savage trying to establish themselves. And now you've got these two intriguing reclamation projects in Yepz and Jimenez who could either be nothing burgers or legitimate contributors. The Blue Jays are in an interesting spot. They've got talent, but they've also got significant question marks. They're in a division where every game matters and the margin for error is razor thin. They need things to break right. They need guys to stay healthy. They need unexpected heroes to emerge. And maybe, just maybe, one of those heroes is going to be a former Silver Slugger winner named Eloy Jimenez who's getting one more chance to prove he can still hit major league pitching. So here's what I need from you right now. Smash that like button if you think Eloy Jimenez is going to shock everyone and make this team out of spring training. Drop a comment below telling me which of these two signings you're more excited about, or if you think they're both just spring training fodder. And absolutely crush that subscribe button because we're going to be covering every single development, every roster battle, every surprising performance as spring training unfolds. This Blue Jays season is going to be wild, unpredictable, and absolutely worth following every step of the way. Let's see if these mystery power hitters can save the day.